Well, hey everybody, I have another couple of wonderful stories for you for story time. I have another Halloween book. This one is called The Super Tiny Ghost. And it's about a little tiny ghost who tries so hard to be scary. She's having a hard time with that. The Super Tiny Ghost. Here we go. Once, there was a super tiny ghost. He booed and screamed and moaned the most, but no one noticed he was there. Not even children paused to stare. He tried with all his tiny might to scare them in their beds at night, but they just thought he was a sheet with big black eyes and hidden feet. He made a list of things to try. He made to make the humans scream and cry. But everything he tried to do backfired and made him feel blue. He watched the witches with their cats and listened to the vampire bats. He tried to learn their ghastly tricks, but watching monster horror flicks. He's trying to figure it out on TV. He wanted to be really spooky, but he came off strange and oddly kooky. Being a ghost just isn't any fun if you can't make people scream and run. He even went to scary school to study being mean and cruel. But when he tried to terrify, they paid no mind, which made him cry. And soon, it would soon be time for Halloween, and in his heart, he had a dream. He wanted to be wild and frightening, with boos like thunder and eyes like lightning. So he floated softly through the door of the local party costume store. Everyone would scream and race away when this new scary ghost came out to play. They had scary monsters and hairy beasts, vampires, zombies, and voodoo priests, creepy spiders and spell-casting witches, and mummies all wrapped up in stitches. He picked the best costume off the last rack and stuck it inside a trick-or-treat sack. When he tried it on in the dressing room, he was the perfect picture of doom and gloom. He had blood on his forehead and a toothless grin, warts on his neck and bright green skin. He walked like a mummy with a lurching pace. Only a mother could love that face. When he went back out into the store, people screamed and ran for the door. Now he was ready to frighten and scare. No one would laugh now. They wouldn't dare. A few days passed. It was Halloween night. The streets were lit by jack-o'-lantern light, and the humans in costume, both young and old, wandered into the dark, crisp autumn cold. The tiny ghost had the best disguise, but much to his horror and great surprise, no one he met screamed or ran away. They just thought he was there to play. Except for one tiny baby. Her eyes went wide. She let out a piercing scream, and then she cried. And suddenly, the super tiny ghost felt so sad. Making this baby scream made him feel really bad. So he stopped for a moment and took off his head and popped out of his tiny ghost head instead. Then the baby started laughing, and he felt complete. She patted his round head and gave him a treat. That little tiny ghost, as much as he tried and tried and tried to be scary and mean, well, he just couldn't. Because, you know, he was a nice ghost, and he didn't want to make people scared. It's a fun new story, The Super Tiny Ghost. All right, my second book for you today is called Not Quite Snow White. And it's about this little girl who loves to dance and sing. But you know, some of the kids, they tease her a little bit, and she starts to doubt herself. Let's see what happens. Here we go. Not Quite Snow White. Here we go. For Tamika, it was always the right time and place to dance and sing. Tamika had a hip-rolling happy dance, a swayful sad dance, a stomping mad dance, and a hip-flicking just because she felt so fabulous dance. She sang high with the tweeting birds and low with the croaking frogs. She always shared her love of music and movement with an audience, stuffed and unstuffed. Tamika loved the stage. It was her perfect place. She was the star of every show, and she loved every show that she starred in. She had been a cucumber, a space cowboy girl, a dinosaur, and her favorite part, a singing mermaid. On stage, Tamika felt like she could be anything or anyone she wanted to be. And she had never been a princess, though. Now, she would finally have her chance. Tamika was so excited that she went to both days of auditions for Snow White the musical. On the first day, she arrived super early. She helped friends with their lines, kept count for the dancers, and shooed butterflies from nervous tummies so songs could be sung. After the audition, Tamika heard some of the other kids whispering, "She can't be Snow White. She's too tall. She's much too chubby. And she's too brown." Tamika looked at her legs. They were long. Maybe the kids were right. A princess shouldn't be taller than her prince, should she? She looked at her belly. Maybe what the kids said was true. She could not remember a chubby princess. Tamika looked at her skin. She was brown. How could a girl with brown skin play a princess like Snow White? Could those kids be wrong? Maybe she was wrong wanting to be this princess. Tamika slouched and sucked in her belly. She tried to pull down her sleeves, but there was no way getting around being brown. From the first time, she didn't feel like dancing and singing. At dinner that night, Tamika didn't tap her feet or clang rhythms with her spoons. "Is something wrong?" asked her mom. "The other kids said I'm too tall, too chubby, and too brown. I'm not right for Snow White," said Tamika. You've got it all wrong," Mom said. "You are tall enough, chubby enough, and brown enough to be a perfect princess." "Besides," said her dad, "Snow White is just pretend. You've always been my real princess. You're just enough of all the right stuff." He kissed her forehead. Tamika smiled and made her parents Maybe her parents were onto something. At the auditions the next day, Tamika watched all the other kids get on stage and do their very best. It was Tamika's turn at last. She remembered what her parents had said, but her long legs were still a little jittery. She closed her eyes and imagined she was singing and dancing for her favorite audience of friends, stuffed and unstuffed. Then she remembered the joy she felt when performing. Tamika knew she could do it. And she did. She shone like the star she was. She could act, she could dance, she could sing. She loved herself as much as she loved music and movement. Tamika was a perfectly poised princess. When the audition was over, Tamika looked out to the smiling faces. Tamika wasn't too much of anything. Maybe she was just enough of all the right stuff. Not quite Snow White. Don't you guys ever let anybody tell you you can't do something. If you work hard and you try your very best, you can succeed at whatever you want. That's what I've got for you this week, you guys. Have a wonderful week at school and at home. Bye, everybody.